Today I'm going to be taking a look at The Big Bang Theory, Season 1, Episode 13, The Batjar Conjecture. The episode gets this title because in this episode, Sheldon gets his iconic Batman cookie jar that can be seen in the background in many future episodes. I've actually been trying to track down this cookie jar for myself, and it is not easy to find, and it is selling for a pretty high price on eBay these days. So to get to the episode starts out with the group, Leonard, Sheldon, Raj, and Howard, all in the apartment having dinner, and they're discussing the upcoming Star Trek movie, particularly that there might be a scene depicting Spock's birth. Penny eventually comes in for some computer tech support, and Howard reveals that he sees online that one of the teams is dropping out of the University Physics Bowl, and they think that now this gives them a chance to definitely win, so they want to go forward. Sheldon does not like the idea of participating in the Physics Bowl. He does not think he needs to show off his mind and his intelligence. So while they may not be able to convince Sheldon to do this themselves, a Vulcan certainly can. They use Spock's famous quote from Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. This works on Sheldon right away, and he agrees to join the team. Also, one other interesting part in this scene, Raj accidentally speaks in front of Penny, and he immediately claps his hands over his mouth to correct this because he's kind of shocked that he did so. I wonder if this is meant to show that he's starting to maybe feel a little bit more comfortable in front of Penny, or he just didn't think in the moment and spoke without realizing it. So next we see the group at the university cafeteria, and they are discussing the name for their Physics Bowl team. Howard wants to go with the Perpetual Motion Squad, Raj suggests the Bengal Tigers, and Sheldon suggests the Army Ants, and he basically goes on to make it clear that he's going to make them miserable unless they go with his choice, so they eventually give in and decide to go with the name of the Army Ants. We then see them back at their apartment having a Physics Bowl practice hosted by Penny. Penny brings up a very good point here, and that's that how's Raj going to speak if he can't speak in front of women? And we get a little bit of an further explanation on Raj's inability here. Leonard explains that Raj will be okay once the women are mixed into the crowd. He really only has a problem in a one-on-one situation. Also get a moment here where in that explanation, Leonard says that Raj also can't speak in front of women who smell nice, giving a compliment to Penny. Penny takes this as a compliment from Raj. This makes Leonard a little jealous, but he tries to move past it pretty quickly. And they begin their practice. As they're getting asked questions, Sheldon starts cutting in front of everybody, even if they're the ones who had buzzed in, and answering all the questions, because he believes if he knows the answer, he should give it, and he doesn't think anybody else knows the right answer anyway. This understandably immediately frustrates the other members of the team. So later on, Leonard enters the apartment while Sheldon's on his computer designing uniforms for their team. He says he's going with a Star Trek, the original series theme, and he is going to be Command Gold while everybody else is Support Red. Well, Leonard decides to dash his plans here and gives him the gift of the Batman cookie jar, which is where we get the title for the episode again, and he tells him that he is off the team. They had a meeting, the other members of the team, Sheldon's driving them crazy, and they voted him out. This understandably makes Sheldon mad, and he decides that to get back at them, he's going to form his own Physics Bowl team to defeat their team. So next, they're all in the cafeteria eating lunch, although at separate tables. You have Leonard, Raj, and Howard, and at the other table, Sheldon is sitting by himself, and they want to know who's on Sheldon's team. Leonard says he hasn't revealed. He just smiles and eats macaroons out of his Batman cookie jar. Raj takes this as psychological warfare and says he wants to do the same thing by coming up with a weird laugh. He does so, and it actually does seem to get somewhat of a reaction from Sheldon when he walks by, so that's kind of funny. But then they realize that they need to come up with a fourth person for their Physics Bowl team, and there's actually an interesting reference here because Raj suggests TV's Blossom, who is played by Mayim Bialik, who does become a full cast member on the show later as Amy Farrah Fowler. So this is an early reference to her, which is pretty cool to see here. They then suggest Leslie Winkle, who is sitting in the cafeteria, which Leonard is not too thrilled about because of their past relationship. This is Leslie Winkle's third appearance on the show, and anyway, they do decide to ask her. They approach her at her table. She says no at first until they reveal that it's to defeat Sheldon, and she decides to join the team because she does not like Sheldon because he has said condescending things to her about being a woman in the sciences. So next we see them entering the Physics Bowl, and it is going to be Leonard, Raj, and Howard's team, plus Leslie Winkle, against Sheldon's team, and he reveals who he has recruited to join his team, and it's basically staff from the school. He said it's the third floor janitor, a woman from the lunchroom, and either her butcher or son. Sheldon's feeling is that he doesn't really need anybody else on his team, and he can defeat the other team completely by himself. We also see that Leonard, Raj, and Howard's team has reverted to their original suggested name by Howard, which is the Perpetual Motion Squad, or PMS for short. So the Physics Bowl begins, and it is being hosted by Dr. Gablehauser. This is his third appearance on the show. As they start answering questions, we see that Penny is quickly asleep in the audience, no surprise there, and they start going back and forth, answering questions on both sides. We see that Sheldon is holding his own against the other team, and the other team is also holding their own against Sheldon. I don't know which is more impressive in this scenario. It all comes down to the final question, and it's to solve an equation on the screen, and nobody on Team PMS knows it, and on Sheldon's team, he doesn't know it either. So Leonard gives a wrong answer on their side, and they give Sheldon's team a chance to answer, and then Sheldon's teammate, the third floor janitor, gives an answer and says that while he may be a janitor here, back in the former Soviet Union, he was a physicist. Sheldon rejects his answer and decides to say that he's not going to give an answer, and Dr. Gablehauser reveals that that answer had been correct, but since they chose not to give it, they lose. Team PMS wins and has defeated Sheldon, and they begin to celebrate. And we see a disturbing part here where Howard jumps up and rips off his shirt, revealing for the first time, I think, in the show that he wears a dickie underneath his shirts. I mean, you see it in other episodes, but this is the first time that you actually see that it's not like a full turtleneck, it's just the smaller piece. I only note this because I always found this weird. I think this is a weird article of clothing, and I've never really had heard of this before watching the show. So the episode ends back at the apartment with Leonard bragging about his Physics Bowl trophy to Sheldon, and Penny comes in to try to give them some more quiz questions. They're all popular culture related, and they don't know any of the answers. I always find this a little odd because they do like to watch TV and things like that. I know they're mostly into sci-fi, but I'm surprised that they didn't at least know the first question, which was, who are the daughters from the Brady Bunch? But it does highlight that they think about things a little bit differently, even when it relates to pop culture, because they do show in the show that they love pop culture, but I guess it's focused to their specific type of interests. So that is The Big Bang Theory, Season 1, Episode 13, The Batjar Conjecture. I find this a pretty entertaining episode. There was a couple things to look at here. I like the further explanation into Raj's inability to speak to women when Leonard explains that he can speak in front of a large group of women mixed into a crowd, just not on a one-on-one basis. I also like this episode because it's another episode featuring Leslie Winkle, and I like that because we get to see the ongoing rivalry between Sheldon and Leslie, which is a funny one to watch. Especially because Leslie is one of the few people who seems to come out on top of Sheldon in these various situations that they find themselves in. We also got to see just a further development of how stubborn Sheldon is. He came in, joined the team, immediately wanted to take over and do everything his way, got too annoying and got kicked off the team, decided to form his own team, but in the end was so stubborn in wanting to be the only person to know the answers and get things right that he rejected a correct answer just so that he could try to prove that he was the smartest person on the team, and ended up losing because of his own stubborn nature. It's all very interesting because there's a lot to unpack in the character that is Sheldon. This is overall a very good episode. Like I said, I would score this episode at about a 8 out of 10. Thank you again for listening. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share with others. And as always, keep an eye out for the next video coming soon.